episode with a little bit of feedback for the deep state, the deep globalized state. All you guys had to do was to keep the cornucopia. We may have even let you rule over us forever. We may have never woken up to anything. That's my theory. Okay. It was all well and good until you guys tried to convince us that Fruit of the Loom never had a cornucopia, right? There was one. We all know that. By the way, if you're watching this and you don't know that, I want nothing to do with you. You're in the wrong timeline. We are not in the same timeline. Today is going to be a very interesting episode, definitely philosophical, meta, because I don't think I will ever get over the fact that Charlie Kirk knew that he was going to die young. And I am starting to believe that so did the agents that surrounded him throughout his entire life. Let's jump right back in. Welcome back to Candace. Everyone in the chat right now saying, yup, it had a cornucopia. I knew you guys were my people. I want to start by saying that the way that I feel, the way that I think a lot of you feel, the vibes that are surrounding us right now is that the deep state is in some sort of a panic, right? We've acknowledged that over and over again on the show. Something doesn't feel quite right. It feels almost like we are at the beginning of the end of a long satanic run. That's why, just so you guys know, despite the obviously sobering reality that the world is run by these people, I'm pretty optimistic every day. I can't explain it. I don't know why. Things are obviously coming apart, but like things have to come apart before they can be put back together. And they're just getting sloppy. And if I could put it into a sentence, I would say that it's almost as if our awareness is the threat, right? Awareness, just our being conscious of what they are doing, somehow spells their doom. Example of things that are inexplicable and maybe somehow related to deja vu. The story of how I met my husband. I've told it many times, how I got engaged 18 days later. No one believes me. They don't want to accept it, except maybe Charlie Kirk, because he was there for it. But I already knew George. That's how I describe it. I saw his face. I know that doesn't make sense, but it happened that way. I looked at my husband's face and I already knew him. It was like a sigh of relief. And yeah, there's other explicable events and things like Charlie telling me that he was going to die young. Anyway, today we are going to be showing you clips from a YouTube channel called Be Inspired. We're going to link it in the comments as well because they did such a fantastic job of diving into these phenomena and how they likely relate to another shady government CIA program, which came to be known as Project Looking Glass. This actually happened. These were whistleblowers that came out, like with all of these projects, people that are in the military, scientists coming out and saying, hey, government has this technology and they can peer into the future. I'm sorry, what? What does that mean? Anyways, the narrator of this channel, who I could not find his name to save my life because there's multiple people that work this channel, but he begins by taking us back to the Y2K scare. You guys remember that? Of course, you remember the Y2K scare. I was actually scared. I was young. I was like, oh my gosh, I just don't want to die like this. I don't want to die just because it's midnight and it's the year 2000 and they were just kind of pumping all this fear into us. Anyway, let's jump right into this clip.
Let's start with Y2K. In the final months of 1999, there was a global concern that computer systems would fail when the date switched to the year 2000. All the software used only 2 digits to record years, so 2 nils might be read as 1900, potentially disrupting banks,
credit cards, and ATMs may cease to function.
power grids, airlines,
Airplanes and trains may come to a halt.
governments and corporations spent over $300 billion updating systems. It was one of the largest coordinated tech efforts in history. People stocked food, withdrew cash, and prepared for the worst. But when midnight came, almost nothing happened. The systems held, the world moved on. Still, that global moment left an imprint. Some view it as a psychological turning point, the end of the analog age and the quiet beginning of a fully digital world. From that point on, life accelerated. Culture, communication, and consciousness shifted onto screens, fast, constant, and increasingly disconnected from physical time. Some researchers believe Y2K wasn't about a bug at all, but a kind of global psychological reset, a ritual of fear, distraction, and silence. The code may not have crashed, but something else may have been triggered. our perception of time and reality. After something strange started happening online, people began noticing memories that didn't match reality. The most famous? The Berenstain Bears. Millions remember it as Berenstain with an E, but every book says Berenstain with an A, and that's just the beginning.
If you're running a simulation and you go back and you change some variables and you rerun the simulation, lots of little things could be different along the way, right? You have many different possible paths.
The glitches in the matrix.
Exactly. You're now on this timeline, but you remember, you have like a deja vu, or you have like a weird memory.
Movie quotes, logos, product names, all different than we remember. Entire groups of people swearing something changed with no explanation. It became known as the Mandela Effect, named after people who remembered Nelson Mandela dying in prison years before he actually did. What could cause something like this?
Are you familiar with the Mandela Effect? Yeah, of course. Millions of people remember certain events that never happened. And so how do you explain that? As we go through our conscious progression, as we raise consciousness, the way we perceive the world, and therefore all that will exist in our world, will morph to that new resonance as a sympathetic resonance. So certain aspects of the old world will just no longer exist. And so we can still have a phantom memory of those experiences, whether it's like Jiffy peanut butter or Luke, I am your father, which he never said that, right? All these things like that literally just like fall out of your new frequency. Because everything in your world around you, including time itself, is retrocausal. The world around you that is no longer fitting your frequency will disintegrate and dissolve.
Okay, so I'm not trying to start a world war in the comment section today, but Pikachu had black at the end of his tail. Obviously, I don't know when they hit delete on that button, but he definitely had black at the end of his tail. Some of these things just don't make any sense to me. And it's just amazing that we just sort of accept it and we just keep moving on. And when you start asking questions, they try to paint you with, no, don't ask the questions, just keep going on. Let's just pretend. Let's just pretend that, there was no cornucopia. Anyways, this brings us obviously to the CIA's project Looking Glass. Essentially, there were these whistleblowers, like I told you, in the military and within the CIA apparatus that came forward to reveal that the deep state had a technology, which they stole, of course. Please do not miss the part that I keep explaining to you. These people are not smarter than you. They're just more evil. They steal, they plunder, and they steal things, and then they rewrite history and pretend that they were geniuses. Anyways, they have a knack for murder. They have a knack for theft. And this time, just like a lot of times before, they stole a device from the ancient Sumerian civilization that's located in modern day Iraq. Very advanced civilization. They're obsessed also with Egyptian civilization, as we discussed yesterday. The Satanists kind of taking and reintroducing these things. First, they keep them to themselves. They hoard these things, and then they kind of give us certain aspects of technology as time goes on. So they steal this piece of technology and they incorporate it into a computer. And suddenly they're apparently able to predict future outcomes. Just imagine the deep state being able to look into a glass, so to speak. The Sumerian culture was known for their advancement in glass, and to see different outcomes. I mean, the amount of power that you would have, and then also fathom in your mind that the people that are Satanists have this power. Take a listen.
This is where things take a turn. Because according to Bill Wood, a former Navy SEAL with high-level clearance, the US military once had access to a device called Project Looking Glass, a technology that could supposedly view potential future timelines.
The project was shut down because there was a problem when we approached 2012. The timelines converge on that point in time. When you know how string theory works and how the possibility of possibilities works and how making one choice over here doesn't necessarily mean that the other choice couldn't exist at the same time. But once you get your brain wrapped around this subject, you find out that at the end of 2012, in an easy way to put it, the choices that we make become less and less consequential to the future. And eventually we're pushed into this bottleneck of time, no matter which choice we make.
Okay, so is that certainly 2012 in your understanding?
It's well coincides with December 21st, 2012.
So at that point, all possibilities lead to the same
Timelines.
Rubicon.
All possible timelines lead to the same basic set of history in the future.
And after that, they shut it all down. Now ask yourself, why would a system like that be buried, and what exactly did they see? Because this isn't just about false memories or tech. It might explain why everything since 1999 feels frozen and artificial, like we're on rails in a version of reality that wasn't meant to last this long. And if you think that's wild, wait until you hear what else Looking Glass may have revealed. So what exactly did they see with Looking Glass? According to multiple whistleblowers, including Bill Wood and other interviewed by Project Camelot, every time they ran the device, no matter what variables they changed, all future timelines converged to a single fixed point. That point, somewhere between 2012 and 2016. After that, the future became unpredictable. No more branching outcomes, just a wall.
So it's super interesting that they couldn't see beyond 2012, or rather they could see beyond 2012, but maybe things became inevitable. That was backed up, by the way, by a lot of different things. Mayan civilization, the calendar, remember that whole scare? Why doesn't the calendar go beyond? So you arrive at this point and you wonder, what is this, right? Suddenly these people who are evil are no longer allowed or able to control outcomes, essentially, or perhaps, so maybe they did see something beyond 2012. But no matter what they did, they couldn't change the outcome of that thing that they saw beyond 2012. So it wasn't so much the future couldn't be predicted, but rather that they couldn't change it, like something was coming. That's how it kind of feels to me when I just examine everything that's going on. There is this panic, like evil is panicking right now, and they're making a lot of mistakes because they're no longer in control. And I would also add here that one of the things that I've noticed is that they're trying to turn us all, again, maybe this is their solution, where they're going, okay, what are we going to do? We can't change the outcome. Maybe we can just turn everybody into a computer program. Like they want us all to be the same. They seem to get really angry when we behave like humans. Like that's one of the things they're trying to triumph is our humanity. We talked about this a lot with the Charlie Kirk story, the reaction, how we felt icky, but they were like, what's wrong with you? How dare you feel icky? How dare you not like this? Don't you know this is what he would want? It's like their inability to defeat our humanity is angering to them. Now, something that was crucial, which was revealed about Project Looking Glass, was that the people who were in the room while this device was being operated, their conscious thoughts impacted the device, okay? So just imagine this. What they were thinking in the moment was changing future outcomes. Thoughts influenced future outcomes. That piece is super relevant to what we're going to discuss. And obviously that's pretty reminiscent of one of the themes of The Matrix. I just am going to assume everybody's seen that movie. If not, you should watch it because it was way ahead of its time. And he is going to connect that dot here. Take a listen.
So what exactly did Project Looking Glass revealed, and why was it quietly shut down? The people involved began noticing something strange. No matter what variables they used, the results kept showing the same future. A point where all possible timelines seemed to merge. That moment, somewhere between 2012 and 2016. After that, everything became unclear, like the future couldn't be read anymore. This brings us back to 1999, a year that might have marked more than just the turn of a century. It's also when The Matrix was released. At the time, it was seen as just another sci-fi movie, but looking back, it feels like something more.
You've been living in a dream world, Neo.
The film introduced a powerful idea, that the world we experience might not be what it seems, that reality could be shaped or even simulated without us knowing. And once you start asking questions, things begin to change. That idea resonates deeply with what many have felt since the early 2000s. The time feels different, that the future doesn't feel open the way it once did. Almost like things are repeating themselves, the same cycles, the same events, showing up again and again. Some people even report seeing repeating numbers everywhere, like 1111, 222, 444, almost like little glitches or signals hidden in everyday life. And strangely enough, this idea of patterns repeating of cycles you can't escape lines up with what looking glass operators allegedly encountered. The sensation that the future was already written and that all paths lead to the same outcome. Fast forward to 2012, some whistleblowers claim that a confidential briefing took place where certain agencies acknowledged the shift, a kind of convergence in human potential. This document, released by the CIA, explores consciousness as something that can move through time, even outside of the physical world. It discusses remote viewing, timelines, and the nature of reality itself. Now, connect that to the Matrix, and the overlap becomes hard to ignore. Maybe it wasn't just a movie. Maybe it was the first time the system gave us a glimpse behind the curtain. And if that's the case, what else have we been shown without realizing it?
Okay, a lot to unpack there. First, I'm going to say, just regarding the movie The Matrix, you should look into how even the script for The Matrix was stolen, allegedly. But to bring this back to my earlier point about all of these things that are happening or have happened that are seemingly inexplicable, it just lives inside of me that Charlie Kirk knew he was going to die. How? How was he so certain that he was going to die young? How is that possible?
Yesterday and today is the very first public unveiling in a public presentation of Project Looking Glass. A human being is about this tall. This is built in underground bases. It is colossal in size. And what happens is when you fire this thing up, these rings start going in all different directions. It shields off the barrel of water inside, which is just like your pineal gland. The water inside flips over into time-space, which then captures argon gas, captures visual images, and this is what it looks like. It becomes huge, glowing, all the way out to these posts, which are used as stabilizers for the energy field. Now, it doesn't start out with an image of the Earth. That's just there as a placeholder, although you could see the whole Earth like that if you wanted to. That's not usually what happens. Well, contact, right? We have been given the technology right in front of our faces in the movies. They just don't tell you what it's for. In what? 13 Ghosts? Well, thank you. I'll have to check that one out. Doesn't sound like a movie I'd want to see, but if it's for that, oh, I can imagine. So, Contact, just to recap from yesterday, blueprints come in from the Vegans, from Vega. They figure out that it's only when you fold up these patterns into a cube, which forms what there in the center, the triangle with the eye in the middle, as it folds up. Cube geometry, that's when you can decode the plans to build this, these rings, which becomes this machine. And there's your little helicopter. So there's another shot of it. They got computer animations of how it's going to work with the different rings moving. This actually looks like the fisheye lens distortion effect that happens around the looking glass when you power it on. There's a gantry crane up at the top, and the little guy is dropped down and goes inside. That's like your barrel inside the mechanism there. And this is where all the action happens. This is where the Stargate opens, the wormhole into the higher realms. In this frame, we're seeing how the whole thing collapsed and fell apart. So, of course, you want to take a ride. You know, the new the new formation of the one after the old one breaks. And here we're seeing the new one. Once again, you get a very clear view, and there's your little eye with the rays coming off it, just like the all-seeing eye on the dollar. Not surprising. Here she is. It's even larger than the real one, standing on this ladder, looking down inside. This is the chamber and the chair inside, which we'll see is very important. And here's your geometry. Look at that. Did anybody notice that when you were watching the movie? Because it goes by pretty fast. That's that same geometry that's in the background radiation of the whole universe with the sphere in the center. They fire it up. Guess what happens? Big, bright luminosity, just like the real thing. The real thing that they're actually using and have been using since the 40s at least. And here's what it looked like from the control room. It gets brighter and brighter, and then she starts having the floor disappear. She gets dropped down inside, and then, of course, she goes through this wild wormhole ride, and there's an ascension experience at the end of the dream. The Iraq War had, to a large degree, the mission of capturing a looking glass technology that was dug up in Sumer, which was originally in the possession of Gaddafi in Libya, which is why they attacked Libya. Gaddafi got rid of it and gave it to Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein was using this technology, viewing the future. The U.S. government went in after him because they felt that the fate of the world was at stake, because if they did not capture this technology and get it back and deconstruct it, that the Earth would have a pole shift. But when you actually decipher these letters, it means the doctrine of the convergent timeline paradox. Here's the problem. You look through time with this device, and when you hit 2012, everything goes perfectly white. As you get closer and closer to 2012, starting in around 1980, a very strange thing has been happening when they use the looking glass. There is an interlacing of images. So right now, imagine that if I had this slide on half the time, and then the other half of the time, there was an image of like a face. And if I interlace them slowly, then maybe every second it goes from here to the face to here to the face. Then as it speeds up, it gets faster and faster to the point that if it were complex images, you couldn't make out one from the other because they're flip-flopping so fast. Okay? That's called interlacing, and the frequency of the interlacing gets higher and higher as you go towards 2012. So anytime that they try to look at, like, or they used to try to look because they're not using them anymore, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, bam. It's so interlaced that they have a whole server farm of computers just to deconstruct the two images and be able to see what they're looking at in the future. So again, this is what they're using. This is one of the main ones they're using, the Orion cube as they call it, or the cube. And also it's being used with looking glass. But what's going on with 2012? Well, here's another very interesting thing. We have multiple parallel futures that we can choose. And 2012 literally does represent create your own reality time. It has everything to do with what do you expect is going to happen. This is where thoughts becoming reality really takes on a whole new meaning in a way that you've never heard of before. So what they found that was so bizarre was that at December 21st, 2012, they could calculate it down to the day, that's how precise this was, that for some reason all the graphs, all the waves would go into a complete flat line. They no longer moved up and down like before. They went flat for like 7 or 8 seconds. So then they're asking the guys that went through these stargates and were traveling into the future, what happened to you? Every single time that somebody tried to hit 2012, they said the same thing. There was this thing they called the bump. It actually hits you like a bump. You actually feel like you've slammed into something. And as soon as it slams into you, you have the most incredible religious experience you can imagine. Cosmic consciousness. Your consciousness just blasts into this wonderful place where you have awareness of no space, no time. All knowledge is available to you. Ecstatic God consciousness. You could be the galaxy. You could be a subatomic particle. You can go everywhere, do everything, and there's no sense of it ever ending. So when it finally stops, you just can't even believe that you're back to who you were before.
Like what happened to Jodie Foster.
Exactly what happens to Jodie Foster in Contact. So,
Is that the moment of no time then?
That's the zero time, yeah. And Daniel doesn't agree with me on this, but I believe that 2012 is our zero time reference. And when you hit 2012, everything goes perfectly white.